Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It is me, Kay, and I am here today to give you Beyond the Gates Season 2, Episode 130, okay? So, our episode begins as a continuation of Episode 129, I believe. And that is Danny having a conversation with Anita, right? And so last thing we saw Danny inform Anita that, Naomi was considering a double mastectomy. And Danny wanted Anita to talk Naomi out of it because she thought that Naomi was making a very drastic decision, even though she knew that, Naomi did all her research about the topic and about, preventative measures. She felt like Naomi was still young, she was still in the clear, and that, her considering a double mastectomy was extreme. So she wanted Anita to talk her out of it. And Anita definitely told Danny, I will not be doing such a thing. And I was like, Grandma has spoken. And the reason why Anita told Danny that is because she felt like, it's Naomi's body. We can't tell Naomi what to do with her body. Naomi has, not only tested positive for the gene mutation, but she also saw her grandmother go through with it. And so with Anita being the person who went through with it, she was more understanding of Naomi's stance. She said, what I do want to do, though, Danny, is be a bridge between my daughter and my granddaughter. Meaning she wanted to hear Naomi out, and she was going to talk to Naomi just to see where her head was at. Because, with her just finding out, it's already been months. And, of course, she feels bad because Naomi has already went through so much processing by herself. And so Naomi told Danny that Naomi told Danny. Anita told Danny that she would be reaching out to Naomi, and she would just like to see what Naomi's head is at. And so, Danny can't argue with her mama, but Danny was just, Danny's just afraid. And now that, the news has been revealed, it's just she has to figure out a way to handle it, and how this is going to bring, of course, the family together closer. So as that conversation is going on, we see Naomi at Bill's law office, and, Bill is just checking in with her. He's asking her about the whole situation with Tomas. And right when Bill was about to, I guess, offer her a position or tell her that he wanted her to begin working at the firm with them, or that he even enjoys her being at the firm, Naomi says, before you get started with that, I do want to reveal some news to you. And she basically tells Bill about her positive test. And she tells Bill, all the things that she has considered, the time that she has processed it. And Bill surprisingly takes the news differently than what she expected, and even what I expected as a viewer. Shoot. When Bill first found out about Anita, he was devastated. He was really hurt. You know what I mean? And then to find out, that Danny had tested positive for the gene, he was also really hurt. And that really had put a lot of things into perspective, which, of course, as we know, episodes ago, he got his paperwork and stuff together in terms of how he wanted everything to go in the event that he passed away. And so instead of giving, Naomi the scared, the cautious, asking her 1,000 questions, he simply just told her that he was proud of her and that she handled everything like a boss because he knows that she is a boss, and that, whatever he needed to do to be there to support her, that he would do that. And I guess in terms of all the reactions that Naomi had been getting from the rest of the family, I guess Bill's reaction was like a breath of fresh air. And I also think because he had just went through that situation at the hospital and, going through things with his own body, he was a little bit more understanding, as to why, she chose the method that she chose to go about the situation. And so also, Naomi also used the moment to tell him, I've done everything that I'm supposed to do, and if she was supposed to go to the hospital, or if she had some doctor's appointment, she wouldn't miss her appointments, unlike her father, who we know, Bill, He is afraid of hospitals and they make him uncomfortable. While Naomi is at the office with Bill, she gets the phone call or she gets the text from Anita telling her to come visit. And of course, Naomi automatically knows, what that message is. So she tells Bill that she's going to step away and she's going to be back. Once Naomi leaves, we see Haley come in. And as we know, Haley's been plotting and scheming prior to, Haley showing up to the office. Haley was having a conversation with Randy at Uptown. And she just basically telling Randy, I had a conversation with Smitty. Smitty was asking about the plasma ring. And since, Haley was cool with Lynette, and Lynette was the person who took money from Leah or, whatever, she was her plan was to frame Leah for the disappearance of Lynette. And she was telling Randy that, she planted that bug in Smitty's ear, basically to help Randy get off in the event, something comes up about Lynette missing. And so now I'm like, what exactly did y'all do to Lynette? The last thing we saw was Randy, being with Lynette intimately, and then next thing you know, he took her phone and she was gone. So are we gonna ever be able to, is it gonna be revealed to the audience what happened to Lynette, or is he gonna go into detail, or is this like a building up type thing? Like, what's going on? Because I like Lynette on the show. So for her to just abruptly be gone and we don't know anything about, nothing has been revealed to the audience. Usually they would tell us something and then the characters would be out the loop, but we know nothing. So that was different. But Haley was saying that, she was ready to go ahead and wrap things up with Bill and, get it over with, because she basically was saying that she was going to, continue to give him the serum, but, get him to work out. So I guess he could overly exert and it make it look like he passed away from natural causes. She said that she was going to get her a Caribbean man. She said that, she was going to live her still got her groove back era. And then she said she was going to enjoy the rest of her life as a widow. And I was just like, you just evil. And I can't wait until you get busted. Then she goes by that little place. And it's crazy. I still don't know the name of that little place they go when they go and get smoothies. They be going to sit on the porch or something. She went there and got 2 green drinks. And of course, as you know, she already has mixed the serum into Bill's green drink. So she's talking to Bill, telling him how, they're going to start their fitness journey. They're going to work out. They're going to, eat healthy, drink healthy, or whatever. So she tells Bill about the drink. Bill is repulsed by the drink in the beginning, but then he tastes the drink and he ends up liking the drink. The drink is really good. He guzzles it down. And when I seen Bill guzzle that drink now, it's different, when he drinking the tea because he's sipping. But with this, he guzzled it all down. And so I knew from that moment, I knew that, sorry, y'all. From that moment, I knew Bill was going to be hurt. From that moment, I knew Bill was going to pass out. And so I'm just like, dang. Haley really about to try to take this man out. And so while Bill is guzzling down his drink, he tells Haley that, he's gonna drink the drink. He likes the drink. He's gonna start exercising. He tells her he has, things to work on. So Haley leaves and goes back to Uptown. When we see Bill alone, Bill finishes his drink and Bill gets up, stands up, gets woozy, and passes out. Passes clean out. And I'm like, oh my God, who gonna be the one to walk in the office and find Bill? Is it gonna be Naomi? Is it gonna be Caroline? Is it gonna be some other lawyer? I don't know. And so then the crazy part about all of that is Bill himself ends up waking up and is like, what's wrong with him? And he gets up, he crawls to the table and he sits down. So I'm just like, dang. So now I think at that moment, because he doesn't know like what's happening to him, and he didn't stay at the hospital long enough to get any answers. I think this last time terrified him, and I think he's gonna admit himself into the hospital, and he's gonna stay in the hospital until he gets all the testing, and especially because it's based off that conversation he just had with Naomi. Meanwhile, all that's going on, Naomi is at, you know, the Grand's house, and she's talking to Anita, and she's telling Anita everything that has happened along the journey of her, you know, figuring things out. And so Anita tells her, you know, the decision that she made. She was like, you know, she even has gone as far as to having a consultant, you know, Naomi is telling Anita. She's gone as far as having a consultant with Carlton about reconstructive surgery. Because even though, you know, she would get a double mastectomy, she also is taking all her tissue out, and she's considering, you know, getting implants, you know, that way she could still have a bust. And so Anita tells her, you know, with all the decisions that she made and all the, you know, consultants that she had, she decided to get a lumpectomy. And so basically, in summation, Naomi basically looked at Anita and asked Anita, what do she think she should do? Do she think she should go through with the double mastectomy? And Anita, I don't think Anita really gives her answer, because I think Anita wants Naomi to figure it out for herself, but she also doesn't want to tell Naomi what to do with her body. I also, during this conversation, I like that, you know, Anita was like she said, a bridge. She was able to give Naomi a better understanding as to why her mother is, you know, carrying out and handling things the way she's decided to handle it. You know, both Naomi and Danny kind of were judging the other for the decisions that they decided to make. And so Anita basically told Naomi the reason why that Danny has decided to go with the measures that she is going is because she's a model. She makes her money off of her body, you know, and the way she looks. You know, that's her career. And so if she was to alter, you know, her look, you know, it is attached to her self-esteem, is attached to her self-view of herself. And so I thought that was great. And then she was like, you know, in comparison to you, you make your mind and your career is focused on your mind. So you using your mind, it's like a no-brainer to you that if you need to do something in order that has something to do with your body, you're going to be more, you know, open to doing it, because, you know, the way you look doesn't, you know, factor as much as it does with Danny. So I thought that was a great perspective. And you know, Danny has been telling people that as well, as to why she doesn't want to, you know, have the surgeries. But I think Anita did a great job explaining it to Naomi. Yeah. All in all, I think that conversation with Naomi, I was so happy that Anita finally found out. And I was so glad that, you know, Naomi had a chance to talk to Anita about it, because if she was going to talk to anybody about it in that depth, she was going to talk to Anita about it. And, you know, she already, like she told Anita in the episode, she highly values her grandmother. Like, if anybody was to tell her anything, her grandmother would be the only one who could tell her something for real. And so I really appreciated that conversation. On the flip side, we had the whole thing with Nicole. So as we know, Nicole found out that Ted and Shanice had started exchanging I love yous. But I think what I guess was weird to me during the whole thing was that the fact that Nicole took it upon herself to go have a conversation with Shanice. Excuse me. I really didn't understand that, especially, you know, given her reaction to Kial. And Kial was just trying to figure out, you know, like, how exactly Nicole was feeling. You know, if Nicole did feel weird about it, he was, you know, understanding, if I may say. But he was just trying to figure out exactly where they stand, because he doesn't want to put too much into something, or, you know, give more effort into something if that's not how she's feeling. Because we already know that Kial is starting to gain like stronger feelings for Nicole. And so Nicole went and had a conversation with Shanice and basically told Shanice, you know, like, she's happy for her. She doesn't feel a way towards her, you know, for dating Ted. And if she could have anybody date Ted, Shanice is the perfect person that she would have had to date Ted, because she knows that Shanice is a great woman. All in all, throughout that conversation, I understand Nicole's sentiment, and Nicole tried to be the bigger person about it. But to me, in my opinion, I feel like Nicole has unresolved feelings for Ted. I still very much feel like there's a what if factor with Nicole. And so, I guess we're just gonna have to see how all of this plays out, because she says that she hasn't reconsidered reconciling with Ted, but I really feel like she has heavily considered reconciling with Ted a lot. We just don't know because she hasn't openly admitted it, but sometimes given her reactions, it gives that. Also, we see Deanna at Orphan and there's this guy there who had a breakfast and he can't pay for his food. And so, you know, June is there waiting on him. His car declines. She's like, we need to figure out a way to, you know, get this paid, because if you leave this establishment and you do not pay for your meal will come out of my check. And I was like, let him know, June. June said, I need my coins. I need my coins. She was like, and however, if you do need a meal in the future and you don't have money to pay, there is a church down the street that has a food pantry or a food window where you can go and get you a nice, warm, hot meal. Oh my God, June. You know what? I couldn't even be mad at June. June was not playing with him. But in the distance, you know, Deanna was there for her break, I guess, and she thought that the dude was attractive. So she ended up buying him, you know, buying his meal. And then she ended up taking his number down because she was just like, I'm going to send you a Venmo request to pay for the money. To pay for the meal. Unbeknownst to us, we find out that this is Kyle's son. Now, I'm just like, Ariana, what are you doing here? Kyle's son, what are you doing here? First of all, Kyle ain't even got that big of a role to be, you know, having kids on screen. We just supposed to be meet. Kyle just supposed to be like a passing by in the wind. So now we know that if Kyle is getting family members, we know that now they are setting up a bigger plot for Kyle. First of all, I don't even trust Kyle. I don't even trust him being in a relationship with Nicole. I feel like it's something underlying there that we haven't, you know, found out about. It's just something about him that just don't seem right. And then you got his son who seems just as sketch. But then, you know, he has a talk with Deanna, and Deanna, you know, he was like, I'm trying to find my way to Garland because he's from California. And so basically the son, what's his name, Noah, is here trying to track down his daddy. So Deanna takes him to the hospital. And then, you know, he bumps into Nicole. Well, Nicole recognizes him from photos. And so Nicole takes him right to Kyle's office. And, you know, unbeknownst to us, Noah is a bum. Well, we already knew Noah was a bum because he couldn't pay for his $20 breakfast. But unbeknownst to us, Noah is a struggling musician who Kyle has, you know, been struggling. You know, it seems like Kyle has been struggling in his relationship with his son because Kyle doesn't necessarily approve of the path that his son has chosen to take, because, you know, he has maxed out, you know, his card, and then he's trying to live off his credit card, but, you know, he don't have no gigs. And so, you know, Kyle thinks he needs to find something more practical. He needs to get like a job to, you know, fund his dream, which, you know, in that instance, I agree with Kyle. I thought Kyle was correct. I was like, you know, sometimes you do got to work to finance your dream. And then once your dream start taking off and it's able to finance your lifestyle, then you can quit your job. But then I was just like, at the same time, you know what I'm saying? This is a repeated cycle with Noah. And Kyle is very disappointed in him. And Kyle was just like, you know, what are you here for? And then Noah asked him for money. And then he was just like, this is the last time. And we also find out that Noah is also the youngest son. And so it seems like, you know, y'all know how it is with youngest children sometimes. And so he was just like, Dad, this is the last time I asked you for money. And so Kyle basically gives him an ultimatum and says, well, if I give you this money, I'm going to need for you to apply for a job. I'm going to need for you to get a job here. And I'm going to need for you to get, you know, a good paying job. So then Kyle suggests that he apply for the job at the free clinic. I honestly don't think that'll be something Leslie will be rolling for. And honestly, I think Noah might be sketch. I don't know. like, you know, Leslie is really like set on having the right person at her clinic, because that whole like plasma ring thing almost took her clinic down and almost gave her clinic a bad image. So him being irresponsible is not gonna be, you know, something good for Leslie. So I don't know how that's gonna go. And honestly, I would say I don't see him getting a job, but seeing as though this is what Kyle kind of suggested for him, I'm like, oh, they might end up hiring him, because they haven't been able to hire nobody, because there haven't been many people applying, you know, since the whole thing went down. So I'm just like, dang. So then, not only does Noah ask Kyle for money, he also says that he asked if he stayed with him for a while. And so then, because Kyle was like, there's no room, I'm just like, what? How is there no room if you just bought like a penthouse apartment? You only got one bedroom in a penthouse? It ain't no way for him to like lay on the couch or nothing. And then Nicole suggested Kyle, you know, come and stay with her. So I'm just like, you moving in, Kyle? You just talked about how you want to stay casual. And I know sometimes I have sleepovers from time to time. But now you trying to say he could move in with you while his son is at his penthouse? I just... Nick Young meme. Like, I don't understand, Nicole. What? So you just went from saying that, you know, you ain't in that phase of your life where you ready to tell somebody I love you, but you ready to move somebody in who you don't love. I'm bewildered. I don't know. But yeah. And Deanna, I'm not here for Deanna having no love interest, especially with Kyle. Where is Darnell at? I know they keep saying Darnell's away at school. He taking summer classes, woo woo. He ain't that busy at school during summer. It's not a lot going on. Why he ain't at Fairmont Crest? He need to be somewhere in the mix of all of this. I don't trust him. I don't trust none of this going on. All of it's giving me sketch vibes for real. But yeah, y'all. Let me know what y'all thought of episode 130. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll be back with more videos. Deuces.